This time of year, I do find myself in my kitchen a lot more. I like to spend time in the kitchen experimenting with new recipes. One thing that we have really been working on, I say we, I mean myself and my daughter, is pastries. Specifically, she has been working on pastry. She's been making pain de chocolat, if that's how you pronounce that, croissants, and danishes. I actually have been having her experiment with making them whole grain as well so that I can share that with you all here. So coming very soon. But I also do like to have an arsenal of fast things that we can make very easily. And sometimes I like to switch it up a bit, give my family something new and fun to try. So I'm going to be sharing with you today some ideas for weeknight dinners. Now, I am all about in my kitchen keeping things simple, using simple ingredients over and over again that I keep on hand so I can easily throw together a meal. Every once in a while, it's fun to switch it up and get some new ideas. Now, I did put together a new blog post over on farmhouseonboone.com that you might find helpful for creating a little bit of variety with a kitchen staple, at least for us, and that is ground beef. Now, the reason I like ground beef so much is because I can thaw it very easily. So even if I didn't think about dinner, I can get a pound of ground beef out of the freezer, throw it in some hot water in the sink, and in no time at all, I can break it up, brown it, and put it into a dish. So on that blog post, there's over 15 different ideas. I will link it below. One of them is burger bowls. This also works great with ground venison if you have a freezer full of venison. It focuses a lot on the toppings and the sauce, which I really love any meal that is like that, because it's really browning up some beef, throwing in some seasonings, and then just topping it however you want at the table. It's great if you have a lot of children and if some of them are a little bit pickier, but then you also have older children and a husband, and you like to create a little bit of variety with what you add to your meal. Something where you are customizing it with the toppings, with the sauce, is really perfect for that situation. It's also great if you are having over a crowd of people. I find that tacos and bowls work really well. The sauce on this one is a delicious combination of barbecue sauce. I like to use Date Lady barbecue sauce. I always have it in my pantry. Mayo, I use homemade mayo for that. Pickle juice, which is great because it also tastes fabulous with pickles on top, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. This is definitely a hit and is a part of our regular rotation. The way that I'm able to throw together weeknight meals is by having a well-stocked pantry with quality ingredients. I want to say thank you to today's video sponsor, Thrive Market. Thrive Market is an online grocery store that specializes in natural and organic. They vet the products for you so you don't have to obsessively read labels. They have a whole list of ingredients that they don't allow on their site. Plus, when you're on their site, you can sort by dietary preference. So if you are paleo, gluten-free, dairy-free, you can make it to where you only see those options, so it's a very streamlined shopping experience. As a busy mom, that is one way I can take something off my plate, is by getting high quality groceries that I don't have to worry about the ingredients right to my door. Orders over $49 ship for free. I love to stock up on things like organic, unbleached all-purpose flour for some of my baking. I like to get avocado oil fried chips. I can't get those locally, but when we have things on the go, oftentimes I'll meet friends at a park. I like to serve that with chips, but I can't find them without seed oils here where I live, and so I like to stock up on that. I love the Thrive Market brand because I can find great prices on things like vanilla, baking powder, baking soda, organic ketchup. There's so many baking supplies, condiments, spices that I often pick up on Thrive Market. Thrive Market is offering Farmhouse on Boone viewers 30% off your first order plus a free gift worth up to $60 by using my link, thrivemarket.com/farmhouseonboone. I will also leave it linked in the description box below. Another meal that I tend to make over and over again and then forget about for long stretches of time is egg salad. I like egg salad because it can be made ahead of time in really large batches, and it's great for on the go as well. I'm always trying to think of things that are good for on the go. Too often, if we're going to be meeting at a park with friends all day, I will have sourdough bread like I always do, but we'll go get deli meat. And I really try to minimize how much deli meat we eat. It's not that we're going out and about often, but I'd say probably about once a week. For whatever reason, we are packing a lunch and I don't want to always rely on deli meat. So egg salad, chicken salad, all good options that I'm trying to bring back into the rotation with the addition of a little bit of pickle juice and finely diced pickles. This is a version that children especially tend to love. But of course, you can customize egg salad however you want to. You can add more mayo, less pickle juice. You can add more mustard. It's a simple recipe, and I think that it deserves a place in easy weeknight meals because it can be made ahead of time and you can make it even if you don't have any meat thawed out. If you're like me, there's always a lot of eggs in the refrigerator, so I can hard boil them even if I didn't make it ahead of time. That's something that is very approachable. When I get in the habit of making hard boiled eggs, I think I should always have hard boiled eggs on hand because there are times, especially right now when we're building a house, where something will come up where Luke and a few of the kids will need to go out there to meet someone, and I wish I had something quick to send them with. I am not one to make all of my condiments from scratch. I like to buy a lot of organic condiments to keep on hand so that it makes my life easier. But one thing I do always make from scratch because it really truly is just so easy and difficult to find a quality version of is mayonnaise. Now I no longer measure anything. You almost can't mess it up if you have an immersion blender. I will say my mom one time was like, I just can't get the mayonnaise to work. And we were asking her about like what immersion blender she had because we didn't notice that she ever had one. And she was like, oh, I just tried using the blender. And we were like, that's the one thing you have to do. So she makes her own mayo now. But you put one egg in a wide mouth jar, add a little bit of salt, a little bit of either lemon juice or mustard. I do not measure. And then pour olive oil over top. Now, if you're using a wide mouth mason jar, there's measurements on the side. So if you're wanting to follow a recipe, which usually calls for about 1 cup of mayo for 1 egg, but again, you don't have to measure. You can do less oil, you can do more oil, I have found. And then stick that immersion blender down all the way to the bottom of the jar so that it blends the egg first. The egg will sink down below the oil. If it does get disturbed, just let it settle. And then start moving the immersion blender up to incorporate the oil after that egg was emulsified. I love having mayo on hand, not just for chicken salad, egg salad, but also homemade dressings are really good with mayo as a base and other homemade sauces as well, like the burger sauce. So something that is definitely good to have as a skill in your kitchen. Another recipe that made it into the ground beef recipe ideas that we like to use is ground beef gyros. Now, gyros are supposed to be made with lamb. This is not technically how they're supposed to be made, but this recipe is really good. I'm going to make some dough for pita bread and strain off yogurt to make some Greek yogurt. You do not have to do this, of course. You can either serve this just in a bowl with rice and the meat to not use the pitas at all, or you can buy store-bought pitas, or also you can buy, of course, Greek yogurt. I like to make it just because we have a really good local milk source and she lets us get so much that I don't see the point in purchasing any yogurt or dairy. Well, we buy cheese, but any easy to make dairy products such as yogurt because we can just make them so easily in the Instant Pot and then strain it off to make this tzatziki sauce, which comes together with shredded cucumber. Of course, this would be a really great recipe in the summer when that's fresh. Greek yogurt, lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, dill, salt, and pepper. Now, the pita bread calls for a little bit of whole wheat flour and then the rest all-purpose. That's what's over on my blog. I am subbing it 1-for-1 just exclusively with whole wheat flour. So it's 2.5 cups of flour total. I am doing that all in freshly milled hard white wheat berries and it works great. It also has a cup of water, a tablespoon of sugar. You could also use honey, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a teaspoon of salt. I kind of just like to throw it in there. Now, I have been doing exclusively stretch and folds for a while in my kitchen because it just works so much easier, especially if you're doing big batch, a lot of different doughs at one time. So I just did stretch and folds, maybe 3 of them throughout the day, and then let it bulk ferment until it was doubled in size. This could either be something you do in the morning for dinner time, or start the dough later in the afternoon or evening, let it ferment overnight, and then make these for lunchtime. I really like doing pita pockets because they're easy. You just have to preheat either a pizza stone or a cast iron skillet, something that will get really, really hot. And when it hits that hot surface, it will create that bubble, that pocket. So it's also a really good thing to have for a sandwich on the go. You can really put anything inside of a pita pocket. These gyros are great. So even if they don't puff up properly, they will still be wonderful to wrap around that delicious ground beef and add some of those toppings like cucumber and olives and onion. Another one of those things where at the table, people can decide what they want to put on theirs. So if you have some pickier kids, they might just do the beef and the gyro, and that's totally fine. And then for the more adventurous, adding all the toppings and the feta cheese is delicious. Now, a very similar dough to this, but actually ends up with a quite different result, is sourdough naan. Now, I really love this. I don't make it that often, but when I do, I always think, oh, I should make this more often. I really like to get a bunch of doughs going at the beginning of the week or at one time in a bunch of bowls so that throughout that day when I'm doing stretch and folds, I just stretch and fold them all, and then I have them ready and available to throw with any meal. So that's why I'm justifying calling these homemade breads part of weeknight meals. Again, you don't have to make the bread, so it can be a weeknight meal with naan bread and with pita pockets that you purchase. But I really like making them in my own home, and when you get the hang of making a bunch of things at once, it really does become simple because it's just ready to go, ready to throw on a skillet with dinner time. You can make them very easily with 100% freshly milled grains and with the basic ingredients that you have in your house. I especially love this naan bread because it's so soft. With the addition of yogurt, it becomes just so very soft and pliable. I also like to brush each one with butter, so it's just delicious. And I love little flatbreads like this because they are so easy to make. Once the dough has done its fermenting, you just divide it, roll it out flat, and cook it on both sides on a skillet. With this one, we're not trying to make a pocket, so I'm not even putting it in the oven at all. Just a little bit of grilling on each side, and it's the perfect addition to homemade butter chicken, which was the meal I made today. I went on and on about the dough and forgot to talk all about the butter chicken. Chicken is another great protein for a last-minute weeknight meal. Just like ground beef, you can thaw it very quickly if you're using like individually packed chicken breasts or something. I get those from my sister's farm, so they're just easy to thaw out and to pull out of the freezer, which is why I like them. I do think a bone-in chicken and dark meat chicken has more flavor, but these are fast in a pinch, and butter chicken is one of my favorite ways to cook chicken breasts, especially because you can serve it with rice. Chicken and rice or beef and rice in some form makes it on our dinner table quite a bit just because it's so simple. And kids love it. Kids love rice with any meal. Now this meal, maybe I should call a great on-the-go meal, but it also makes a great weeknight meal at home, maybe served with a salad. We had somewhere we had to be right when the kids got home from the farm. We had to load up the van, take dinner to go. This happens to us on occasion, and they told me that this is what I should always make for those occasions just because it's so good and so very portable. Even though I edited this video so that I could show you each meal one at a time so it didn't get confusing, I did make all the dough at the beginning of the week so that it would be available to easily use in a meal throughout the week. Usually the way that I do this is I mix up all the doughs. Now if you're doing a bunch, make sure to label your bowls because you will probably forget, especially if you have like 4 or 5 things going. I mix up the doughs and then do stretch and folds throughout the day. So when I go over to do a stretch and fold, I just do it on every single dough that I made. Once I've done about 3 of those, I just let them bulk ferment. Depending on how warm your house is how long that part of the process will be. And then you can stash the ones that you're not planning to use right away in the refrigerator to pull out and use when you want to. These ham and cheese roll-ups are over on my blog, farmhouseonmoon.com, as well as the other recipes. I will leave them all linked below. I hope I gave you some ideas to try for weeknight meals this winter. Thank you so much for stopping by our home.